to Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist, your not so typical self-help podcast for therapists, healers, and helpers. I'm your host, Shauna Lovin, a seasoned therapist with a rebellious spirit. This season, we are redefining freedom, fulfillment, and stability without burning out, self-doubt, or playing by the rules of a broken system. We are cutting through the noise and exploring what it means to truly live life on your terms, not by what society expects of us. No more chasing an illusion of success that leaves you drained, because we are embracing the beautiful messiness, the sometimes chaotic journey we call life. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist. I want to use today to talk about some things that we normally don't talk about out loud. Well, at least I do, but most of y'all probably don't. And this is something that's not necessarily talked about in grad school. It's something that's not talked about in supervision. Well, if you're in supervision with me, we talk about all kind of shit. But in most places or supervisions, it's not talked about. This is not going to be one of those tight-lipped clinical gatherings where everyone pretends that they have it all figured out and you feel like this quiet desperation humming beneath the credentials. This is not about that. I want to talk about diagnosing and how it's become a distraction. How has this become a numbing tool? I think it's been the number one numbing tool over time. It's a mask. It's a box we shove humanity into because the system told us to. It is how we, the therapists, healers, helpers, bought into the lie because we wanted to do good, we wanted to help others, and because we didn't know that there was another way. But if you've been in my world any length of time, you know there's always another way, or we can figure out another way. You know now that you can do better. So basically, if you know, you know. Let me say it plain. The system taught us to forget. Most of us were trained to treat symptoms and not souls. To diagnose the problem, it was to not listen to the person. To check the box, to write the code, to give a label, and then we just move on. We're taught the naming gives us control. Like identify your emotions, it gives us control. The labeling gives us access. The category that it falls in gives us the care, right? But here's what I've seen over and over again. That diagnosing often becomes a wall and not a window. It's like this thing where once you give a diagnosis or a person receives one, it's like that is it. It tells you exactly how we should work with them, how they should be treated, this, that, and the other. And a window is more of like, here is some room for space and growth and how we can work with the person. This also gives the therapist a sense of authority when we can give a diagnosis. It gives the insurance company a reason to pay because we all know damn well that the insurance company don't want to pay for shit unless you give them a really good reason to. This also gives the client something to cling to when everything else feels like quicksand to them. But it doesn't always give the truth. And it doesn't really give us any kind of liberation in either case, the therapist or the client. So this is like, think about the therapist. It could be you or someone you know where you're just clinging to the diagnosis for safety. And then you get this like nervous system hit like, hey, I know this. And then it automatically tells you how to work with this person, what to do for this person, what modalities, theoretical, all of it. It tells you what to do. But the thing about that is no one fits neatly into the box. The other thing is the box is overdiagnosed. The other thing that is that when we use the label of the box, there's always the excuse that a client can have or a many clients use. Now, I'm not saying all clients, but there's a lot of clients where you can use that. This also makes me think about medication. And if you know me, I am not a big fan of medication because in theory, medication only works on how your body is responding to whatever the stimulus is, but it doesn't fix or change the way your brain thinks. So medication in theory doesn't really help, which is why a lot of us get to stay in business because we're trying to help people change the way that they think. Okay, that was a mouthful. When we start to work and figure all this out, because I've just thought about I've worked with a lot of therapists, some really smart ones, some really brilliant ones, some burnt out ones, and ones that secretly are grieving the cost of staying compliant in a system that strips their work of soul. And here's what I've heard time and time again. I have to use the diagnosis to get paid. I don't believe in it, but I don't know how to work without it. I don't feel ethical, but what's the alternative? And they will also say, I would say that I just get it because I've been there and I really get it. Because because I've been in those chairs, I've seen that before because I've done the paperwork, I've written the adjustment disorder, really meant like your client is just drowning in whatever's going on with them and they just don't know how to deal with that and process it. Medication doesn't help with that. I've watched a diagnosis become an identity for some people, and I've watched how helpers have turned into gatekeepers and not guides, because we're here to help people do better, see better, feel better in other ways, but we shouldn't be gatekeeping what that looks like. I've also watched the system reward the ones who stay small and get penalized the ones who get louder. So I really want you to think about how can you get louder? This is your invitation to get louder. When you finally see it and you know that the DSM was never neutral because it was created by a bunch of old white dudes, and every diagnosis that's in the book is about some type of white male, hence, except for like hysteria, if y'all know what that is. Excuse me. And it's just, it doesn't fit. And that goes back to what I was saying about nothing fits neatly in the box. The thing about what we've been told is like, it hurts because we've been lied to. It hurts because you participated in it. It hurts because it's hard to unlearn what made you feel powerful and safe. But really, that's just grief. That is the threshold of change or thinking differently or mindset shifts. That is the threshold. That's the beginning of deprogramming all the shit that we've learned along the way, especially what's in grad school. This is how therapists really experience cognitive dissonance. It's like we just wake up, we do what we do, we follow the steps, and we keep moving along. And then when you wake up and realize that it doesn't have to be that way, it starts to feel lonely. Well, you're not alone. There's other people out here. You don't have to burn it all down, and you don't have to stop pretending like it's all okay either. But now that you are awake, you have to make some changes to do things differently. So, what do we do instead? We need to slow the hell down. We need to ask different questions. We need to stop diagnosing people for having a natural response to unnatural systems. We need to stop pathologizing pain that makes sense. We have to learn the language of the body. We have to understand trauma in context, not isolation. We regulate with our clients, not at them. And we start telling the truth. That is so much of what we've been taught about what control is, but it's not about connection. We have to connect with our clients. It's about compliance and not care. And to be truthful, diagnosing often serves the system more than it serves the actual soul of your clients. You have to connect with them to understand what they're really going through versus just labeling them so that you can get through the next thing. So you're not crazy for wanting something different, because I know you've been sitting in your sessions wondering, is this it? Is this what healing is supposed to look like? Why does this feel so clinical, so cold, so off? You are not crazy. You're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You are just remembering. And that remembering really is the rebellion. It's the magic. It's the sacred invitation back to you and owning the knowing that you have. You don't have to stay stuck in a box just because the system told you that this is the only way to be legitimate. You don't have to do that. You don't need permission to practice from your gut, your body, or your bones, because you already know. You don't need to stop gaslighting yourself and thinking what you've been doing is okay and that you're crazy, and then knowing that there's another way to do it. So I'm going to encourage you that if you're still operating in the system, but your soul is screaming for something different, this is your calling for you. I know if you're tired of making healing like transactional, and if you're ready to stop co-signing the parts of therapy that never sat right with you, you need to find your people. This is where we unlearn, and we do that over here with me. We learn to rebuild. We learn that telling the truth, even if it's messy, it's especially when it is messy, is the best place to learn. I want you to know that you are not alone, and this is the work that we do over here. So I hope this was helpful, and you sit with yourself and find out, am I still operating in the system, or have I stepped out of that box? Until next time. There you have it, my friends. Another episode in the books. Remember, it's okay to be a hot mess sometimes. It's all a part of the journey we call life. Until next time, stay rebellious, stay authentic, and keep embracing the beautiful messiness of life. Want to learn more about your unique energetic blueprint? Make sure you download your free chart and learn how it can help you make choices that are aligned with who you are and not who society expects you to be. Please visit shauna11lpcs.com for more information. Anything mentioned in today's episode will be linked in the show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe, you share with a friend, leave a review, and keep coming back for more.